Hello, YouTube. It's been a long time, a little while since I made a long-term video. We're back to making another tier maker video. In this video, we're talking about the many faces of Nicolas Cage, that being going through his filmography and ranking the best ones. Now, you may have noticed looking on the screen in the haven't seen section, there's a whole lot of movies that I haven't seen of his, just because he went through that bankruptcy regime, and he had a lot of bad movies, just took a lot of bad movies just to keep getting paid. And also early on, there's just a lot of movies in here. I mean, there's Valley Girl, there's Vengeance, there is, I don't know, Wild at Heart. Who has heard of some of these movies? I mean, I'm sure they're all well and good, but these are just the ones that I just haven't seen. So I went through the list of all the ones that I haven't seen, and we came down to the ones that I have seen, and the ones that I have seen are the one true best ones. But we'll go through the tiers, and let's get to it. If you like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and all of that. I don't like to say this, but apparently it's supposed to help me out. But let's get into it with the first one. Uh, Best of all time, obviously the best of the best. The great ones that are just below that. That's so Cage. These are the meme-worthy movies that are really great, but whenever you watch them, you just have to man, you gotta love Nicolas Cage just because he gives it all out there. And the terrible ones, not too many in this list, but I mean, there are a few bad Nicolas Cage movies out there, and I'm sure if I had seen a lot of the ones and haven't seen, a good amount of them would probably be in the terrible category. But let's start off with National Treasure 2, which I think is a great movie. I don't think it's as great as the first one. No, I mean, I still like the clues, the history behind it, even though it's talking about the city of gold, which may or may not have existed, but it's still fun trying to come up with it. How his family was part of the assassination to kill Abraham Lincoln, and side note, Abraham Lincoln again, terrible president, and always had it coming, but it's still a great movie, great, really fun time. It's just not as good as the first one. I love Ed Harris as a villain. He's a believable guy. The story seems a little more believable, but at the same time, not. It's just a really cool story. I like all the effects, just all the traps, all the gizmos, and all the clues behind this mystery. It's just really fun to see how it turns out. But yeah, next we have Knowing, which I think is another really good movie. Not the best. It's one of those movies that went kind of under the radar. Nicolas Cage, or his son, can see visions of horrible things coming in the future, and him as well. And this all relates back to a woman, or about 50 years before, who was part of a time capsule, and that she's just really kind of weird. And all these terrible things start happening around the world. And there's a sunspot coming from the sun that's going to just cook the earth. And Nicolas Cage and his son are being tracked by these alien dudes. And I mean, the special effects in this movie are kind of fun. It is a little out there with the whole world ending kind of thing, but the effects at the end are pretty darn awesome when the Earth just absolutely gets cooked by a total sunspot. But it's really fun. It's really out there, so I mean, it's just one of those Nicolas Cage performances that I liked it, but do you remember it? Maybe not. I remember it, but a lot of people out there probably say, no, I probably don't remember that all so much. The Sorcerer's Apprentice. That's so Cage. This feels like such a Nicolas Cage movie. It's just a crazy wizard helping Shea Baruchel become a new wizard. The effects are really weird. The effects, to be honest, aren't very good at times, but this is a fun story, and from what I remember, it was just a really fun time. Just don't have a lot to say about it because it's just this kind of one that just, you watch it, it's out one ear, out the other, and then it's gone. Season of the Witch, again, I think it's a little bit above Sorcerer's Apprentice. It's fun. I mean, witches, there's warlocks, there's magic, there's swordplay. Him and Ron Perlman make a decent duo. I mean, trying to find an evil witch. I don't really remember a lot about it, but it feels like one of those movies in the late 2000s that Nicolas Cage just took just to make a paycheck. It is a little more big budget than some of these other ones in here that are, you can tell just looking at some of them, like, wow, these are really low budget and not expected to be any good. They're just putting them out there for a paycheck. But this one, I think he made a little bit more money on, and some of the effects are kind of cool. It's really out there with the fantasy aspect of it, and I don't know, it's fun ending. Of course, we have here National Treasure. I'm going to put this at the top because I love National Treasure. I love the Freemason angle. I love going through Independence Hall, going under the North Church, Freemasons chasing everybody, stealing the Declaration of Independence. The whole heist setup is really fun. Finding all the objects to find the clues. It's just a really fun time. And Sean Bean is a great villain. Dry, sarcastic as always. One of the few that he doesn't die in, but it's a really fun time. If you haven't seen it, I know a lot of people probably watching this video probably will have seen it, but it is a whole hell of a lot of fun and one I definitely recommend. Ghost Rider is a total That's So Cage movie. I mean, this is one, of course, I think he is a great representation of what the Ghost Rider character is all about, but this is one of those movies that lets him get, his eyes are bulging out of his head, especially when he's changing into the Ghost Rider for the first time. He's just going absolutely crazy, just his eyes are bulging out of his head. He just has that unique ability to just go all out, better than any other actor. Like, he'll do anything to make a buck sometimes, but he's really good at what he does, and frankly, he is a really good actor. He's just had his low points during his career, and this is one of those low points, but I love Ghost Rider. I think it's a fun movie. Some of the effects are really weird. I mean, Wes Bentley's just out there, but it's a fun time. I love him as Ghost Rider. He makes a very convincing Ghost Rider, and it's a whole hell of a lot of fun. Vampire's Kiss. Okay. I'm not sure whether to put this in That's So Cage or Terrible, but I don't remember a lot of it. But the only reason to really watch this is just to watch him running around saying, I'm a vampire, I'm a vampire, I'm a vampire. So Cage-worthy performance. Fantastic. Well, not a fantastic movie. It's pretty terrible. But in terms of meme-worthy Nicolas Cage movies, him walking around, running around saying he's a vampire is chef's kiss great. You know, now that I think about it, from what all I said before, this is the real Ghost Rider. Go back to see. This is the Ghost Rider sequel, which is not good by any means. I mean, yeah, it just feels so rushed. It's just so out there. I mean, there's the son of Lucifer. The effects are far worse. I mean, it's just not very good at all. It's not good. The second Ghost Rider movie is a really big punch to the nads after watching the first Ghost Rider movie. And forget all the good things I said about this. This is what I meant. This is the original Ghost Rider, and this is the one that's really fun. Kiss of Death. Another Cage-worthy performance. We're going to put that up here. Now, if you remember, David Caruso, of course, played Horatio Kane in CSI Miami. He won a Razzie for his performance in this movie and a couple other movies around the time, but this one, Nicolas Cage just gets to be all like out there, be a real thug. He's kind of a total a-hole, but he's loving it. He really brings it all in this game. He's just totally out there again. Fun movie, not the best movie in the world, but one I do remember watching fondly. The Rock. I know I put out a poll the other day, and people were upset that I didn't put it on there. It's a great movie. It is a good movie. The effects just have not aged very well, but it's still really fun when you're the Rocket Man. Welcome to the Rock. Running through or racing through the streets of San Francisco just seems all totally out there. I mean, I think I've made this point before in other movies or videos I made that this movie is basically Sean Connery is a really old James Bond that was thrown in jail and the key was thrown away. This is his chance to redeem himself after doing some horrible act stealing state secrets. And it's a fun time. Great villains, great cast. The effects, like I said, some are good, some are really bad, but still a fun ride and one of the better movies of all time. Con Air is fantastic. I love this movie. So many great performances. Every line that John Malkovich speaks in this movie is fantastic. Nick Cage just goes out all out again. Put the bunny back in the box. And running through the streets of LA trying to chase down Cyrus the Virus and others. And him just trying to be the good guy. He could have gotten off the plane and then there wouldn't be a movie. And then the plane probably would have gotten off and all the criminals would have escaped. But he does a good guy route because the only reason he was in jail was because he defended his wife and killed a guy just because he's a Marine. And the whole aspect of him getting thrown in jail for 10 years for what he did for basically self-defense is ridiculous. And it makes for a great movie plotline. And I don't know if any of you know this, but John Cusack hates this movie. So if you ever see him in public, don't ask him about Con Air because he'll probably give you the middle finger because he says he hates this movie. It's like, why do you hate this movie? This movie is so fun. Like, why would you hate something like this instead of some of the other shit you've been in? But still, Cage, worthy performance, number 10 for sure. Now, I know probably a lot of people probably disagree with this. I know a lot of people love Face Off and like, I'm going to take his face off. This movie is still fun. Totally John Woo. Totally out there. The action is ridiculous but fun. And Nick Cage gives one of his best performances. But to be honest, the movie's not that great. I put it in my poll earlier just because I figured people would be mad if I didn't put it in. But apparently it made a lot of other people mad that The Rock wasn't in there either. But both these movies are 1A, 1B in this category. Best Nicolas Cage movies of all time. He has a lot of great movies, a lot of great action flicks, and some aren't all going to be in the top 10. There's just no way around it. I mean, what are you going to do? It's just, there's no way you can put every movie in a 4-choice poll on YouTube. Now, Face Off is still fun. John Travolta is... I gotta be honest, John Travolta is so John Travolta in this movie as well. They work off each other so well. And in the end, it's just a fun movie. It's just not one of my favorites, to be honest. But figured a lot of people out there like it. Lord of War. I think Lord of War is so underrated. It is such a cool idea how little Yuri Orlov, who escaped from Ukraine when they didn't have to avoid persecution, and then his father ends up becoming Jewish, if you know the plot of the movie. Of course, this is loosely based off the real Merchant of Death. Yes, the Merchant of Death, the guy we traded for to get Brittany Griner back, is still a crime, and Joe Biden, frankly, should be on charges for giving away such a criminal to bring back a person who literally broke a law under their own free will. So again, but the movie is loosely based on the Merchant of Death. He slowly builds up cachet, builds up. It's a good performance for Jared Leto, even though, to be honest, I don't think it's as great as people make it out to be. Watching him descend into drug-laced tirades, and then eventually Nicolas Cage just cuts him loose, and he just gets more and more guns, becomes a literal Lord of War. The last 2/3 of this movie aren't as good as the first half. I mean, the first half is just so rewatchable. I watch it all the time. It's a great rewatchable movie. Just watching a man's soul literally turn blacker and blacker and blacker and blacker. I mean, my God, the depths of darkness that he goes into just to make a quick buck and just killing people on each side with the use of his weapons, no matter what side, is just frankly evil. And the fact that this man walks free nowadays, always the real character or the real person that this movie is based on, is a crime against humanity, and Joseph Biden should be totally ashamed of that. But still, great movie, and it showed on the poll that a lot of you people like the Lord of War as well. Very underrated movie, does not get the credit it truly deserves. Gone in 60 Seconds. I think this movie is great. I know it's not everybody's favorite. I know it's probably not as good, supposedly, as the original classic, but I think this movie is so rewatchable. The whole idea of getting 50 cars in one night is insane, but it's such a lovable group of characters. Nick Cage is a believable bad guy. Him driving Eleanor at the end of the movie is fantastic. I mean, yeah, the villain Raymond Calitri is just kind of terrible, but you believe him, you believe Nick Cage, you believe the relationship that he has with Giovanni Ribisi in the movie, and he's just a really believable guy. Even though he's done terrible things in his life, he's still loves his brother, does whatever he can to save him from the horrible fate that he could do if all the cars are not brought. And the fact that the broken the broken mirror counts as 49 and a half cars. It's insane and ridiculous. No, because he backed up slowly trying to avoid police. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, the Eleanor chase at the end is fantastic. One of the coolest scenes in the 20th century, to be honest. 21st century, to be honest. Wind Talkers, another movie that doesn't get talked about a lot. I think it's a good performance by him protecting the Navajo Code Talkers. They're basically just, all the racist things you could possibly say to a Navajo Code Talker. I mean, he's believable. This came out around the same time as We Were Soldiers. It's definitely not as good as that movie, but it's still based on a true story, and Nicolas Cage gives a good performance. It's definitely more of a serious performance, not that's so Cage worthy, but it's a fun time. Very somber at times, and he gives it his all to save the Code Talkers at the end. And that the history behind the Navajo Code Talkers, if you want to know something interesting about history, is really worth a look up. It's a really, really interesting. They really did help us win the World War II, even though, let's be honest, did we really win World War II? But still, fun time. I don't remember this movie all too well. This came out around the same time as United 93. I just remember him being in the wreckage, trying to survive. It's a believable performance, kind of a tearjerker, and especially just because surrounding 9/11, of course. But he gives a believable performance, and one that I do remember fondly, to be honest. Raising Arizona feels like a That's So Cage movie. I'm gonna put it up near the top because it is a That's So Cage movie, but it's just a fun time when really early Nicolas Cage's career, one of his first really big hits, and one that I don't remember too fondly, but one that is still fun to watch to this day. And last but not least, we have That's So Cage movie, The Wicker Man. You can argue that this movie is terrible, but I think it is hilarious. It just has all the Nicolas Cageism, the wild shrieking, the wild fist throwing, the bulging eyes, just the crazy talk. Yes, it is based off a great movie from the 70s. The original Wicker Man with Christopher Lee is a must watch for sure. This movie basically isn't bastardization of that. I mean, they flip it around to being an island all of women instead of just being a crazy cult, but it just is all the Nicolas Cage memes, the bees, the bear man. Oh, every time I think about this movie, I just laugh because it's so terrible at times. But it's just such a Nicolas Cage performance that you just have to love it. You have to love every second of it. But those are the Nicolas Cage movies, the best Nicolas Cage movies out there. I know there's a lot on this list that I just haven't seen, but maybe I'll try in the future to watch some of the more terrible ones just to see how they turn out. I know there's a couple really good ones on here that I haven't seen, like Adaptation. Matchstick Men I've heard is pretty good. I know people love Kick-Ass and stuff, but I'll get to that someday. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Make sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, all that. But let me know what you think down below. Have a great day, and as always, God bless.